Hello and welcome to Scale Model Jam. And what I'm going to take you through today is a quick tutorial on how I make my tyres for my 124 scale cars. This is a very basic tyre we're going to make. It's nothing too taxing, and I'm going to try and do everything step by step, so that even if you're new to Fusion, you should be able to keep up and have your own tyres ready in no time. But these tyres do me well. They've got a little bit of detail on them. They work, and when they print it out, they look bloody good. Now the tyre you can see on screen, this is one of my earlier designs. This was a basic remake of a good asymmetric tyre. Can't really see too much detail there because of the colours, but it's pretty good. The writing is inset into the tyre. You can see there. This is something I changed on later tyres because it's very hard to paint, and to get those tyres, if you wanted to do the Goodyear and the Eagle in white, for example, it would be very hard to paint that in. But it looked good at the time. I tend to have the writing sticking out a little bit, so it's a lot easier to paint. When I make my tyres, I make them to scale. So the tyre that we're going to be making today is a 15-inch or replica of a tyre in 124 scale format. Now for me that measures out at about 17.9 millimeters, I think. So with the tires, if you also did your tires at 17.9 millimeters or 17.95, you would probably find that it wouldn't fit because the tolerances, we're talking zero point 0.5 of a mil here, are too tight. Basically you'd have to do a lot of sanding on the inside of the tire to basically make it a bit wider and get it to fit. However, what I've done a bit of trial and error, and I tend to find that if I increase the tire, the inner diameter of the tire by about 0.2 mil, that gives me enough space to be able to play around. It's still fairly tight when you put it on the wheel, but it's not too tight. It's just enough that if you slightly overexpose the wheel accidentally, you slightly overexpose the tire when you're printing, it will still fit, and they tend to just slide straight on. So it works for me. It may not work for you guys. Do what you feel, have a play with it, play with the sizes and see what comes out the best. But for me, 0.2 mil extra size of the tire is what works. All right then, so what we're going to do is we're going to start designing our tire. The first thing we need is a sketch plane because we're going to sketch out the profile of the tire. So basically, if you cut the tire in half, what you'd be looking at literally side on is the profile of the tire. And we're going to create the bottom profile of the tire because we're going to revolve it later on to make the full thing. So I'm going to come up here to the left and click Sketch, New Sketch. As you can see, the sketch pane where I move my mouse is wobbling about a bit, and that's because these three planes, wherever the mouse is, it changes which plane it's on. We want the front one here, which is technically the front on the orientation cube up there. So we're going to click on that, solidifies our choice, and we end up in the sketch window. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click up here. I'm going to click up on line. I'm going to come back down to the sketch palette. I'm going to choose the line type construction. And this is because all I want to do first is measure where from the center of that tire the inner diameter of the tire is going to be, if that makes sense. So the inside of the tire itself that's going to sit on your wheel, that's the distance I'm going to be measuring out from here. So we're going to click on the center. We're going to come down, we'll calculate 32, 35 mil. We don't need that. Because I'm only doing half of the profile of the tire, I only need half of the measurement. Now, I said earlier that the tire was going to be 16.1 mil, so that halved is 9.5. So we're going to type in there, you can see it's highlighted blue, that means we can edit it. 9.5, enter. And there you go, that is we're going to zoom in here a little bit. That is our measurement for the center point of the tire to the innermost diameter of the physical tire itself, and that will become apparent once we do the revolve, and you can kind of see it coming together. So we're going to go back up, we're going to stay in sketch pane, we're going to go back up to the line, going to click on where this is our bottom reference, and I'm going to come out here by about 6 mil. There we go, so we can change the actual degree of that. Obviously it's highlighted in blue, 8.528. We don't want that, we want 6, because I'm going to be creating a 12 mil wide tire. Now again, I'm doing things by halves because when it comes to doing the actual physical tire itself, it's very hard to use the fit line spline tool that I'm going to use in a second to duplicate it perfectly on both sides at the same time. So if I do half the tire and mirror it, then we'll get the full tire. in 6, press enter, and you can see what I've done. I've still got it selected as construction. We don't want that, so I'm going to click on the line itself, highlight it in blue, and then come over to line type, and I'm going to deselect construction. As you can see, that line is now turned solid, which means it's a proper sketch line now. So I'm going to zoom in, and then we're going to use the fit point spline, and this is basically a free draw tool where you can create all sorts of shapes like that. We don't want to do any of those, so we're going to just Control Z out of all of those. There we go. For some reason it's chosen line type construction again. We're going to turn that off. There we go. And we're going to click on the outermost section of our tyre here. We're going to put a slight curve in it, and then we're going to go straight down to about there. This is going to be a low profile tyre. So as you can see, we've got a curve here. Now this is only half of the tyre, and that's going to look pretty weird because it's going to look kind of like someone's butt, I guess, if you were looking at it from the top. We don't want that. So what I'm going to do is, and it also comes out here at the side, which granted tyres do, but so I'm going to click on one of these green ones here. I'm going to left click that. I'm going to right click it, move copy. And what this will do, this will allow me to increase or decrease the angle of that point. Okay, so if we do that, turn it just slightly, and I'm going to go back to the freeform tool here. No, I'm not. I'm going to click on the center point because the others just change the angle and stuff. The center point actually controls the actual point itself, and I can change it wherever I need it to go. So if we click on it again, move it there, click up here, bring this in a bit, click on that one again, move it slightly like that, bring it so this tyre down here is fairly straight on the surface, and there we go. We have a kind of a stretchy look. So I'm going to press enter. There we go. So we have our tyre profile here. However, it's not a proper sketch yet because it's not a solid sketch, and that's because we haven't put a line here yet. Yes, you can see a line there before you go crazy, but that's part of this measurement line here, which doesn't affect the sketch. So we have to put our own one in. So we're going to click on line, click on the center port, go down to that one, and as you can see, we've joined it together. It turns blue, press enter, and that keeps our choices in. If I hover over it, it goes like a darker blue, and that means it's a solid sketch. That's a good sketch. So what we want to do next is put some tread pattern in. So we're going to do the tread that comes around the tyre itself, the actual lines. We're going to choose up here the 2-point rectangle, square tool to most people, and we're going to start just about 0.1 mil underneath, come up to about there, do that again about here, and then another one a bit closer. We're not going to do it completely symmetrical like that. There we go. That is our tread. So we zoom in there, you can see that all of these are proper sketch shapes because they're all solid or blue, but we don't want these bits. This is going to be filled with air. This is our tread. So I'm going to press T, the letter T on the keyboard. You can see the cursor is now changed to a trim command. I'm going to hover over the lines that I don't want, like that. Hover over, they go purple, we click on it and it disappears. There we go, just make sure you don't delete the one that you actually want to keep. Obviously, only the ones that go purple are the ones it's going to keep. You can see that the rest of the line's gone dark blue because we've highlighted it, but only the purple part will vanish. There we go. I'm going to press escape to come out of that tool, and you can see that we now have a nice solid profile with squares taken out of it. So now we want to create the rest of the tyre. That's quite easy. Click on create, go down to mirror, and you have the mirror command box appear. So objects, that's highlighted blue, so we click on the line up the top here and double click it. It'll select everything, and that's what it needs. When it says object, it doesn't mean the physical object you got on the screen. It means all of those lines that you've drawn in that sketch have to be included, otherwise they won't get replicated across to the other side. The mirror line, select, is going to be the line that we drew from the center point. So it could be that one, it could be any one, whichever one you choose is going to try and mirror it from that point. So this is our center point. Click on that, and as you can see, the other side of the tire just appears. Right, so now what we want to do is want to finish sketch. This takes us back to our normal view. I'm going to zoom in there, it's a bit small. See, it's nothing more than a ship, I guess. It looks like a ship at sea, doesn't it? What a background. But what we want to do here is go to solid tools again and choose this one, which is the revolve tool. We're going to the revolve tool panel comes up. The profile it's looking for is one of these and one of these. Choose that one again. And both of those. So you want to select the one, anything that you want to revolve, you need to make sure it's selected. The axis is the same as one we chose to decide to sketch. So we don't want to revolve it around that one because it will just spin around in a circle at the bottom. We don't want to revolve it around that one because it will be a very thin circle that way. We want to do the red one because we want to revolve it this way. And voila. And there, ladies and gentlemen, is our tyre. That's the basic tyre right there, and that's how easy it is to physically make a tyre. However, it's not very detailed. We can't really see too much going on. So what we want to do is go back to our sketch pane. When I come down to the bottom left to our history, which is just down here. So before we click on that sketch tool, if you can't see this, if all you get is those arrows and you can't see anything you've just done down here, you are not displaying the history panel, which is basically once you get through some designs, this goes on and on and on all the way along the bottom there. If you can't see this, what you need to do, and it will only start collecting data from the moment you start this, it will not collect everything you've just done. You need to go up to where it says here, unsaved, so far unsaved. Right click, and down here it says do not capture design history because it's already active, but yours will say capture design history. Click that, and then when you start working, anything you do will start to appear down here. And what this allows you to do is allows you to go back and forward 3 steps to see exactly where you were at the time. Obviously, once there's more steps in there, that'll become more apparent. So anyway, I digress. Let's go back to the sketch down here. We want to right click it and edit the sketch. This takes us straight back to our sketch pane. So the first thing we kind of notice is that tires aren't always like this. And what I tend to do is I add a little bit of a cutout just from about here down to about there. There, down to about there. Center, obviously it's all still there. We can see it's a solid sketch. Take the trim tool. Goodbye, goodbye. Goodbye, and goodbye. So the sketch come out of that. So it's giving us a little bit of detail there, but obviously there's also a lot of tires have a little line that goes right around the tire. And when you do them in scale as well, this actually helps to bring out a little bit of realism. What we're going to do here is we're going to add a couple of little lines that go around the tire. So we're going to go up to circle. Can we zoom in a bit here? We're going to go to about there. If you notice that as you get close, the cursor actually snaps to the line we've got in place here. They come out. Doesn't need to be that big, maybe 2.45, something like that. Going to press OK. And then enter again. 0.245, it says measured it. That's good news. So what we need to do is make sure that so it's only 1 mil above that tread pattern. That's quite easy to remember. So it's about here. There we go. Can't remember the size. 0.256. So 0.256. 0.256. There we go. Sorry, I put in 256. It went off the screen. So next thing we want to do is we want to click on the trim tool, get rid of the inner circle and the line that separates the semicircle from the rest of the tire. Do the same over here. Now technically I should have done this before we mirror the tire. It would have made life a bit easier, but no, I'm just human. So now what we want to do is click on Finish Sketch, and the tyre re-revolves itself. You can see it now have that nice little line. It's probably a little bit high, but it's okay. It's probably a little bit big as well, actually, but in scale it will look good. So there we go. There is our tyre with the sideline and our little cutout bit here. It just adds a little bit more realism. Of course, you can put another line around here and stuff, and we'll go on to the sidewall lettering in a bit. So what we're going to do now, if you remember when we first started our sketch, we had those 3 planes that I was choosing between. We now need to create another plane, but we want to be able to move it to where we want it to be to create our sketch. And so we're going to go up to Construct, Offset Pane, and this is exactly what it says. It's just a pane that we can move offset from where it usually was to where we want it to be. So I'm going to now choose the flat one at the bottom here. You can see that the arrows just appeared, and I'm going to scroll up, left click and hold, and it's about there. So I'm just going to mess about with the orientation cube a little bit. I've noticed the viewer in is actually in perspective. We don't want that. I'm going to change that to just make it easier to design. Orthographic makes everything the same size. Job done. There we go. So we can see that the pane is there. I'm going to change to the right. It's just it's a little bit high. You can't really see it with the background white as it is. I'm going to just lower that down like that. It's just there. You can just see it. Okay, that. Hover your mouse over it. It will go slightly different color. Right click and create sketch. This will create the sketch pane above the tyre, like that. So we click on top, and there we are. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to create, using the fit point spline because it's a freehand tool, I'm quite happy to do that. We're going to do a quick design. Just like that. There we go. Nothing too taxing. So we have our line, which is just basic like that. It's a very basic line. I'm going to create another one by coming up to the modify panel and choosing offset. We're going to hover over the line. It goes dark blue. We click on it, and you can see that it's got another line just here. So I'm going to put this one just about there, like that. There we go. That creates a parallel line for us. It's not exactly what I want, but if we go to solid line, we can just do that. Let's try that again. Didn't quite get it on target. There we go. Do it again. Voilà. So we all make mistakes. And there you go. There is our, I'm going to press enter now. That is our tread pattern. What we're going to do is we're going to go to Finish Sketch, and we're going to go to Extrude, hover over our sketch, and we're going to press down. Now, if we'd gone up, this would have created a new body, as you can see on the right there. But because we're cutting into something here on the surface, it's actually called a cut, and it changes red to tell us that we're actually going through something, which is absolutely fine. So what we want to do, we want to take that down a little bit deeper in the surface than it needs to be, like that. If we do that level here, it's probably not going to look great, although if we do it there, it's still, you can see it's not quite level there. So I'm just going to bring that down just like that, just a little bit more. Press enter, and there you have our first tread. Now I know what you're feeling. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, damn, Jam, that looks terrible. And it does. It doesn't look great. I'm not proud of that. However, we're going to change that in a few seconds. So I'm going to go back up to the Create menu. We're going to go Pattern, Circular Pattern, and we're going to go up here to Object Type Bodies. Now, this is a body. This tire is a body. It's a solid object. That's what the class is bodies. Faces are these bits here. So we can choose individual faces on the design, but we don't want any of those. We want to choose features because we've just extruded that sketch through the tire, and that's classed as a feature. So we've clicked on objects, we've selected blue highlighted, We're going to come down and click on the extrude here, and voila, there we go. So that's now highlighted as the object we want to like pattern around the tire. It's going to choose the axis again. We want again the same as the actual tire itself. We want the red one, and for some reason it chooses the default number of actions 3. If we just add a 0 to that, you can now see what looks to be a tractor tire, although it's not. Technically we're going to cut out in a minute, but that's pretty much what we're looking at right there. I'm going to click OK, give that a couple of seconds to do its thing, and there we have it. We have our tread. Now, it's not the only way to do tread. It's not the best way to do tread, but for me, it works. But as you can see, we're still a little shy on the surface there. It doesn't look very good. So what we are now going to do is I'm going to just reorientate this so we're looking back at the front, just like that. And I'm going to click on bodies up here and click on the eye next to bodies to remove that body. Now we are just left with the original profile sketches. So we don't want to edit those. We want to create a new sketch on the same pane, and that will slightly grey out the sketch behind it, but we can still use it as a reference, which is awesome. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the line tool, I'm going to come about here, I'm going to go right the way across there like that. Probably want that to go a bit further, to be honest, so we'll do that. Move that end a little bit that way like that. Move that way a bit like that. We technically could have just created a rectangle here. Just get like that. Back to here, to this side. Doesn't matter if it's the same or not. If you're trying to basically figure out where it goes here along the top way, if it's lined up with that or not, what you can do is you can hover over with your line that point. If you start to scroll up, you'll see, you can't really see it here, that green line appears, a green dotted line. That means you are in line with that point, and the cursor will snap to it for the most part. You can pull it away quite quickly, quite easily, so just beware of that. So we're going to click on the line, we're going to go from there to, there you go, that's joined. Okay, so we now have our sketch. Now you're probably wondering, why have I drawn this bit in here? Well, it's the same reason we did the tires. We're going to rotate that. So in order to do that, we need to go to Finish Sketch, up to Rotate in the Create box, Profile Sketch, we're going to choose that one. We notice we haven't trimmed down any of these lines because we don't want to do that. So next we're going to go to Select, we're going to choose the red axis again. Now you see a warning down here, the object you are creating is not visible, please toggle the visibility in the browser. It's very quick because we turned off the bodies earlier, so we're going to just click them back on. There we go. Now you can see if I just expand the bodies on the left, we've got the body, which is the actual tire, and then we've got this new body that we're creating. But because it's actually interacting with another part of the tire, it's automatically defaulting to cut. When you don't want to do that, we're going to change that to join. And okay. And therefore you see our tread and our tread pattern is now level across the board. Now one thing I urge you to do, I normally do a lot longer before this, is I save the design. So we're going to click on save. Just put this somewhere where I know I'm going to be able to find it again. Just put it into Tyres 15-inch. We're going to go to 15-inch tyre. Okay, so looking at the tread, I'm not a massive fan of it. It looks okay, but obviously, you know, even for demo purposes, it looks a bit rubbish. So I'm going to go back and edit that tread slightly to make it a little bit more realistic, so you can see that it can look half decent and not just like some out of a Lego box. So we're going to come down here to our history line that we would have re-enabled earlier, and we're going to right click on sketch 2, which I remember if I hover over it, you can see that on the main picture we've got the green sketches, the blue sketches come up, sorry. So I'm going to edit sketch, like that. And I'm going to hover over this line, click it, so it's highlighted blue, and delete. I'm going to hover over that one and delete, hover over that one, delete. So now I'm going to get the fit point spline. I'm going to create our own. Going to join it to that end there, like that. We're going to join it just like that. There we go. So it's kind of a semi-slick looking. There we go. So it's sorry. So it's kind of a semi-slick looking pattern that we've got there coming on. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get this cross pattern here, and we are going to cut it off just there, like that. And we're also going to cut this one off. Back to the line tool. We're going to cut this one off about here, just for the sake of it. So what we're now going to do is we're going to go to press T on the keyboard, get our trim tool up, and we're going to trim out that bit, that bit, that bit, that bit, and a little straggler there, and that bit, and that bit. There we go. And now if we just exit out of that, click some on the background, those green lines will disappear, and you can see that we've got a slightly different tread pattern coming along. There we go. So the good thing about this is obviously we're working in the previous part of the design. So when we click finish sketch, it's going to run through all of these steps down here again, and hopefully should give us our up-to-date try tread pattern. Okay, so what it's done there, it's obviously we've split our tread pattern into two pieces, and it selected one out of the two. So all we need to do now is go back to the extrude, edit feature, and you can see that that one's the one that's been used to cut. We're going to click on that one as well. That will also cut. Click OK. It's going to compute, and there we go. There we've got our tread pattern, and that looks a lot better than it did before. So much better. So there is our tyre. Right, the next thing I want to do, obviously, to make a tyre look fairly realistic, you want something on the side there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a construct, an offset pane, because I want to sketch the writing of the tyre somewhere about here, and then we're going to extrude it onto the tyre. Normally I could do this on the pane itself like this, but because it's slightly curved, this won't work. I can't draw on a curved surface like that. So you have to kind of draw above it. So we're going to go to construct, offset pane. See our panes have appeared here. Now because we want this one, we're going to go to the one at the back. There it is. And scroll out a bit, you can see the arrow. We're going to move that slightly out. Go to the front. And if we can see, if we just, there we are, there it is. So I've got the arrow down there, it's showing 9 mil. So what we're going to do, we're going to change that to 3 mil. That takes us back inside the tyre. We don't want to do that. And it's also exited. So I'm going to go down here, edit feature, change that to 5, 6, dead on basically. We don't want that, we want just above, so 6.5, there we go. And well, we have our sketch just above there, we want it. So click on that, highlight it, right click and create sketch. So now we want to go back to the circle tool because we need to put text on here. So we're going to, instead of drawing text, you can, if you want, draw the text. It will probably come out a lot better if you hand drew the text. Maybe using a picture in the background to like kind of, I guess like you would in the old days, transfer when you were using kind of tracing paper to draw what was underneath it. You can do the same thing with here, since you can insert a canvas and that canvas would work behind you and would work to that. I'm going to use physical texts like you would use in like Word or something like that. But in order to use text around a tyre, you need to be able to put it on a path that also follows the curvature of the tyre in a circle. So we're going to put that in first, and so we're going to go to diameter, center circle, go over to here, we're going to choose the line type as construction because we don't want this to be a part of our drawing. So we're just going to scroll up, put it about there. So this will represent the bottom of the letters on the tyre. There we go. Now that's in place, we can see that it's there. Click on right. Okay, so we go to create. text. There we go. And you can see you've got two options here in the text box. Just type, which means we can type and it will just appear in a straight line, or text on path. Now this will open up another option of path. Select. I'm going to select that line we've just put in. Voila. And as you can see, it's already put in the sample text letters. Far too big and exactly not what we want on there. So we're going to change this to about 2 mil. See if that changes it down. That's a bit better. 1 millimeter. That's looking good. I quite like that. Maybe 0.9 though. Bearing in mind, depending on what font you choose, it may come up bigger or smaller depending on how the font's set up. And remember, the big thing about this is not all fonts work this way. So you can go to maybe a website that does that specializes in fonts created by the general public, and you could try and put it in here. It may or may not work because it will work to go around the circle line. It will work on the text to path, but when you extrude it, you may find you get problems. And I have experienced those in the past. It's not very often, but I just want to throw that warning out to you. So in here, we're going to choose something like super grippy tires, and I'm going to put a tire size in of maybe 215. Looks like a 35 profile, so 35, and then what was this? 15, isn't it? So there we go. So we've got our letters around there. I'm going to highlight the lot, and I'm not really keen on the Arial font, so let's just choose a different font. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that. I don't know. This is a downloaded font that I downloaded. I don't know if this is going to work. So this is what I mean. We can try it. It's trial and error. We'll see if it works. Of course, we don't want all of that in one line like that. We want it spread around the tire. So I'm going to put a space between super and grippy, and then tires. And then between that, we want the tire size across the other side of the tire completely. So we're going to use a tab key and tab, and as you can see, as we're tabbing, it's moving around. But down here, you'll just put in text spaces in, and don't worry about it disappearing off and getting that scroll bar there. This is what we want. Like I said, it's much easier just to sit there and draw exactly what you want. Otherwise, you are limited to the fonts that you have available on your computer system. So I'm quite happy with this. We're putting the text above the path. Of course, you can put it below. We can flip the text if you want and turn it upside down. Don't want to do either of those. The alignment doesn't really matter because we've got it where we need it. That's absolutely fine. So we're going to click OK. There we go. And there's our super grippy tires. So now I'm going to finish the sketch. That last sketch, if we look down here, is highlighted. It's got the eye on there. We know that's what it is. Now we're going to extrude that into the tire. Okay, so profile. I want to use the sketch profile, which is that one. Start on profile plane. Direction one-sided, we're going to go one way, and we're going to create a new body. So I actually want to join because I don't want this to be a new body. I don't want it to be separate to the bits that we're putting it through, because if we keep it on new body and we scroll into that, it's going to change to a cut, as you can see there. We don't want that, so we're going to change that to join. There we go. Now you notice that these do stick out a tad, but we're going to fix that in a moment. There we go. And there is our wheel with our tyres. Now, had I placed the offset pane a bit closer, we wouldn't have so much stickyouty. So let's do that first. Let's change that out, change the amount that is sticking out, and you'll see because the offset pane happens before the extrusion, it will affect it. So we're going to just edit feature. It's got it 650. We're going to go to fun just to make it as close as we can to it. 650, 630, 620. Oh, I pressed enter, didn't I? What a silly. Edit feature. 630. 630 is looking pretty dead on, to be honest. That's a bit better. It's still a little bit too much, but obviously if we go any lower than this on a curved tyre, we're going to lose some of this detail here. So the way to get this to curve around with your tyre is quite simple. What we're going to do is we're going to create another sketch. Create sketch. We're going to choose this pane because we want to create this here. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to create a quick circle that starts about there. It's going to come out like that and about like that. I think that's about right, isn't it? Yeah, it should be fine. And then we're just going to do this, this, click on that and let it follow out. There we go. Right, there we go. So now we're going to finish sketch. Going to click that and watch what happens. We're going to revolve around that little red axis again. It's going to cut, and as you can see straight away, we've now reduced that right down to the side of the tyre. It looks there, it looks proper, it looks good. So we're going to cut. There we go. And for some reason, we've missed the U out of super. I'm not entirely sure where that's gone. It's probably gone for a lunch break somewhere. So if we go back to here, to our edit feature. Yeah, so this is what I mean. Because we used a non-standard font, it couldn't calculate the U when it was putting in the text. So what we can actually do is change the text, so you can see that it definitely does work. So we're going to go back to the sketch pane, just click on it. We know that it's those because it's highlighted them. I'm going to right click, edit sketch, and we're back in the sketch pane. Now all you have to do now is double click on those tires and it'll bring back up the edit text. So we're going to just select the text. We're going to change that font. There we go. Suzhou UI black. There we go. You notice that now the 255 writing here is now not in line with that. So I'm going to go back here. We're going to delete some of those tabs we put in place. Voila. There we go. Okay, that. Finish the sketch. And it should now recalculate the extrudes and the revolves to include the new font. And there we have it. The U has now returned. So that is our tyre. So I'm going to just remove the sketches to get rid of any kind of. So you can do the same on the other side. You can mirror that and then flip it, and you should be good to go. But that literally is it. It's literally that simple. So all that's left now is for me to print these out and try them on a model car. But I hope this has helped you guys. Obviously, if you've got any questions, please put them below in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you've got on this. I look forward to seeing you guys on the next tutorial, which is going to be designing a basic wheel. See you soon. Bye.